Pero bueno, un beso para acá de parte mía para toda la gente de Los Ángeles, para toda la gente de California que lo está pasando muy mal y esperemos que lo solucione.
Imagine achieving a historic milestone only to have it overshadowed by a firestorm before you can even celebrate. In January 2025, actress Carla Sofia Gascon made history as the first openly transgender performer to receive an Academy Award nomination for acting. But just weeks later, her achievement was drowned out by controversy that would push her to the brink and force her to reckon with some of the darkest moments of her life. Gascon's journey to the Oscars began with her role in the film.
Que se pueden haber sentido ofendidas por las formas que tengo de expresar.
Emilia Perez, a genre-defying musical drama about a Mexican cartel leader who undergoes gender-affirming surgery and attempts to rebuild her life. The film was a critical sensation, earning 13 Oscar nominations and making history at the Cannes Film Festival, where Gascon shared the Best Actress prize with her 3 female co-stars. Her performance was hailed as transformative.
I have a lot of responsibility. I represent a lot of people that want to live in love, in peace.
And her nomination seemed poised to be a watershed moment for transgender representation in Hollywood. Her success felt personal. She had spent years advocating for visibility of a historically overlooked community, one that was part of her own identity and reality. At the Golden Globes, she delivered an emotional speech that captured the essence of her mission. In a tearful address, she declared that light always prevails over darkness, that regardless of oppression, no one can steal away the soul, existence.
This is amazing. I love San Francisco. It's a really good place. It's my first time here, and it's my first time in your town. It's amazing.
Or identity of marginalized people. It was a moment that transcended entertainment. It was a rallying cry for acceptance. But the celebration was short-lived. Within days of her Oscar nomination announcement, old social media posts from between 2019 and 2021 began resurfacing online. The posts contained statements widely perceived as offensive and divisive. She had written about Islam in inflammatory terms, calling it a force contrary to European values.
This experience with the people and with the public. I love the Q&As, and I love the Q&As and when you can hear the public and the audience.
She had commented on George Floyd's death in language many found deeply disrespectful. She had questioned the diversity of Oscar attendees in ways critics interpreted as dismissive of movements for racial justice. These were not recent posts. They were years old, from before her career reached its current prominence, before her role in Emilia Perez had even been filmed. What happened next was swift and merciless. Online campaigns demanding accountability intensified rapidly. Within hours, the story had exploded across social media platforms.
Azul, me he vestido de azul, porque creo profundamente en los valores de la Unión Europea, en los valores de Europa.
Trending worldwide, death threats poured in. Fake accounts were created in her name to amplify the controversy and spread additional misinformation. Journalist Sarah Hagi was among the first to publicly call out what she saw as hypocrisy. How could someone speaking so passionately about marginalization have made such statements about other marginalized groups? The narrative shifted almost overnight, from celebrating a historic achievement to condemning someone for perceived hypocrisy and insensitivity. Netflix, which had been promoting Emilia Perez aggressively for awards season, began distancing itself from her almost immediately. Studios and industry partners followed suit, treating her as a liability. She was pulled from major award show appearances, including the British Academy Film Awards and the Screen Actors Guild Awards, where she had been nominated.
Me toca muy cercanamente, ¿no? O sea, yo nací aquí, crecí aquí, fui secuestrada hace unos 18 años y estoy aquí.
Her book publication was cancelled. Events that should have celebrated her were recalibrated to minimize her presence. The machinery of her awards campaign essentially ground to a halt, leaving her to navigate the controversy largely alone, while her co-star Zoe Saldana won major awards for the same film. The psychological toll was catastrophic and multifaceted. Gascon deactivated her social media accounts, released apologies expressing deep remorse, and withdrew from public life almost entirely. But the external pressure was only part of the battle, perhaps not even the hardest part.
View minorities through a Eurocentric lens. And then we have Deepan, which won the Palme d'Or actually.
What she didn't initially reveal to anyone was how profoundly the avalanche of criticism had affected her mental state in ways far more serious than public humiliation. She described experiencing dark episodes where despair led her to unexpected and dangerous places mentally. There were moments, she would later reveal in her statement, when the pain was so overwhelming that she contemplated the unthinkable, when thoughts turned to self-harm, and when she found herself in desperate territory that frightened her. For weeks, she remained largely silent.
Están bien jodidos. Mejor no traduzcas esto.
Okay, we'll just translate a little bit, okay?
Appearing only minimally in public. She attended the César Awards in Paris just days before the Oscars, but bypassed the red carpet entirely, going directly inside the venue without engaging with media. When she finally attended the Academy Awards ceremony on March 2nd, 2025, she did so as a nominee, but as a woman who had been pushed to the margins of her own historic moment. Host Conan O'Brien acknowledged the elephant in the room during his opening monologue.
Always in this world, in the movies or in TV, when you do a project, you need to be close.
With a joke about her tweeting history, a moment that felt both awkward and inevitable given what had transpired. Gascon sat in the audience, having survived the storm but forever marked by it. The real turning point came shortly after the Oscars concluded, and the intensity of awards season began to fade. With the acute phase of controversy behind her, Gascon made a deliberate and courageous choice. She decided to break her silence, not to defend herself or justify her past statements.
Luego van a decir que ganan por trampa, y no. No, pero hay muchas que me han llamado la atención, hay muchas que han conseguido muchísimos premios ya, muchísimos premios internacionales y que están.
But to speak directly about what she had endured and what she had learned through the experience. She felt compelled, she explained in her statement, by her daughter and by future generations to have an honest conversation about mental health, about the cascading effects of cancel culture taken to extremes, and about the line between accountability and obliteration. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, published in early March just days after the Oscars, Gascon opened up in ways that shocked many who had been following the controversy closely. She described the chaos as an unexpected and devastating storm that had escalated so quickly she could barely breathe. She revealed that the psychological pain had driven her to contemplate suicide.
Recognition. I have a speech, I think it's in the monitor, but no, please, take me. Because I have...
That there had been moments when the despair felt insurmountable. She talked about the absurdity of false accounts created in her name, of accusations so delirious they seemed almost unhinged in their intensity. She described how the firestorm made it impossible for her to protect her daughter from the fallout, adding another layer of anguish to her suffering. But what made her statement extraordinary was not simply the revelation of her pain and struggle, it was her deliberate refusal to become bitter or to dismiss the concerns that had been raised about her old statements. She didn't retreat into victimhood or blame everyone around her. She acknowledged straightforwardly that she had made mistakes, that her old posts had been offensive and hurtful to real people. She didn't hide behind good intentions or claim she had been misunderstood in some fundamental way. Instead, she articulated a complex reckoning that rejected both nihilistic despair and defensive anger in equal measure. She spoke about learning that hatred cannot be extinguished with more hatred.
Your undeniable talent. I know that it is a competition, but all that I have witnessed is just us showing up for each other and celebrating each other, and it's just so beautiful.
She explained that offenses cannot be erased by committing more offenses, and that mistakes cannot be corrected by engaging in deeper darkness. She acknowledged the legitimate pain she had caused, while also pointing out that the response, The relentless pile-on, the death threats, the dehumanization had crossed into territory that was itself destructive and unproductive. Gascon's statement became a rare moment in contemporary discourse when someone at the center of a major controversy chose neither to fully capitulate nor to completely resist accountability, but instead to sit in the uncomfortable space between. She spoke about maintaining what she called 1 inch of sanity to see the light at the end of a tunnel of hate. She committed to doing better, to correcting her past faults, but without engaging in the reciprocal darkness that her critics had directed at her.
In my life, I try to do the best in my work.
Yes.
And it's for the life of others.
Her message extended beyond her own experience. She spoke directly to marginalized communities still trapped in similar storms of their own. She acknowledged that her platform and privilege, despite being a member of a historically oppressed group, gave her resources that others might not have. She positioned her recovery not as an individual triumph, but as an example of what was possible when one refused to internalize the worst of how they were being treated. The statement resonated in complex ways. Some viewed it as a genuine expression of humility and growth. Others questioned whether it adequately addressed the nature of her original statements. What was undeniable, however, was that Gascon had transformed a potential moment of complete professional destruction into something more nuanced.
Don't lost my balance, because I need to be in control for the things that happen in the future.
A conversation about cancel culture, mental health, proportionality in online backlash, and the possibility of redemption without erasure. In the months that followed her statement, Gascon returned to work. She appeared in an Italian comedy film titled Men and Other Inconveniences and began planning her next projects with renewed intentionality. She remained vocal about trans rights and other social issues she cared about, but with a demonstrated awareness of her own fallibility and the limitations of her perspective. Her Oscar moment, which had been derailed by controversy, became instead a complex legacy, one that spoke not just to representation and achievement, but to vulnerability, accountability, and the very real human cost of internet-age judgment. She had not won the Oscar that year, and the film won only 2 awards.
Or maybe 11, I don't know, but it's amazing because I know the history of this recognized, no, for the variety.
But in a strange twist of cultural significance, her story became more widely discussed and debated than many of the traditional markers of success. What made Gascon's recovery meaningful was not that she bounced back quickly or that she escaped criticism. She didn't. Rather, it was that she chose not to retreat entirely from public discourse or to accept a narrative of complete shame and erasure. She wrote and spoke about her experience in ways that honored both the pain she had caused others and the pain that had nearly destroyed her.
Sus hijos, y que hacen lo que tienen que hacer unos padres, que es querer a las personas que tienen al lado y darles la ayuda que necesitan.
She didn't position herself as a martyr, nor did she frame her critics as entirely villainous. She instead created space for a conversation that acknowledged complexity, found herself erased from the very campaign that was supposed to celebrate her. But the story also reveals something more hopeful, that even at the darkest moment, when someone is pushed to the very edge of despair, when thoughts turn dangerous and pain feels unbearable, there remains the possibility of stepping back, of learning, of acknowledging genuine harm, while refusing to be destroyed by shame. For Gascon, breaking her silence wasn't about rehabilitation in the traditional celebrity sense of reputation repair.
He sido narcotraficante ni nunca he sido de otra manera. Incluso algunas personas se atreven a decir te deberían denominar a la categoría también como mejor actor masculino, aparte de...
It was about insisting on her own complexity, on her right to be both someone who had caused offense and someone deserving of basic human compassion. It was about refusing the binary choice between complete defeat and dismissing legitimate criticism. In doing so, she created space for a broader conversation that extends far beyond one actress, initially silenced by controversy, ultimately became a testament to the possibility of resilience in the face of overwhelming darkness, and to the difficult work of growing up publicly